Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the officials of the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Sport and Community Development, and the Sports Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited. I am Bridget Anizet George, the Chairman of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. The Committee on Public Administration and Appropriations, the PAAC, has demanded to consider and report to the House on A, the budgetary expenditure of government agencies to ensure that expenditure is embarked upon in accordance with parliamentary approval, B, the budgetary expenditure of government agencies as it occurs, and keeps Parliament informed of how the budget allocation is being implemented, and C, the administration of government agencies to determine hindrances to their efficiency and to make recommendations to the government for improvement of public administration. The purpose of this meeting is to follow up on the maintenance of community swimming pools by the Ministry of Sport and Community Development. The role of the committee is to assist the stakeholders in achieving the efficient delivery of services while ensuring that expenditure is embarked upon in accordance with parliamentary approval. 2, to determine the challenges being faced and possible solutions to these challenges. And 3, make recommendations for improvement of public administration. Today's meeting is being broadcast live on Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView, and there will be a delayed broadcast on the Parliament's Channel 11 and Radio 105.5 FM. Viewers and listeners can send their comments related to today's inquiry via email parl101@ttparliament.org, facebook.com/ttparliament, and Twitter @ttparliament. I therefore at this stage will ask my fellow members of the committee to introduce themselves, starting from my right.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. Lawrence Islop, member.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Lisa Morris-Julian, member.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Hassel Bacchus, member.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Amrita Devanarayan, member.
Good afternoon, Chair, colleagues, and members, people attending. Simon de Nobrega, member.
The committee is ably assisted by its 2 assistant secretaries, Ms. Keisha Peterkin and Ms. Hema Bagalu. I will therefore now invite members of the representatives of the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Sport and Community Development, and the Sports Company of Trinidad and Tobago to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. I'm Sharon Mohammed, Director, Arrears, Manufacturing Services Sector, Ministry of Finance.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Ryan Maharaj, Senior Business Analyst, Ministry of Finance.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Wilfred Fullerton, Technical Director with the Ministry of Sport and Community Development.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. David Ince, Head of Facilities, Sport TT.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. And Suya Babu, Head of Accounts, Sport Company, Trinidad and Tobago.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. I am Beverly Reid Samuel, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Sport and Community Development.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Mr. Gabriel Maktir, Director of Physical Education and Sport, Ministry of Sport and Community Development.
Thank you very much. And I will therefore invite the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, well, who we have here really is the Senior Business Analyst and also the Director, Agro-Based Manufacturing Sector, Ministry of Finance. So I'll invite one or the other of you all to make an opening statement, if you so wish.
Thank you, Chair. The Investments Division of the Ministry of Finance is responsible for executing the investment policy as prescribed by the Cabinet. Accordingly, the mandate of the division includes oversight, monitoring, and rationalize, when necessary, the rationalization of growth equity holding in commercial enterprises. Chair, we are grateful for the invitation and will make ourselves available in any way we can participate in this meeting this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maharaj. And therefore, can I now invite the Deputy Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Sport and Community Development to make a brief opening statement if she so desires.
Thank you, Chairman. The Ministry of Sport and Community Development, formed in August 2020. The Ministry continues to build our nation's human capital through the development of athletic talent and community life in Trinidad and Tobago. The Ministry achieves its mandate through the work of its core divisions and units, the Physical Education and Sport Division, the Community Development Division, the Prime Minister's Best Village Unit, and the Community Mediation Services Division. The Ministry is also supported by the 3 state enterprises under its purview: the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago, the National Commission for Self-Help Limited, and Export Centers Company Limited. As part of the mandate of the Ministry, we ensure that citizens, communities, and other interest groups have access to quality venues for sporting, social, and recreational activities throughout Trinidad and Tobago. The Ministry manages several sporting facilities which are used for a range of recreational purposes and sporting competitions, including its community swimming pools, which we are discussing today. The Ministry has 9 community swimming pools under its purview, and a 10th is in the design phase. There is recreational and instructional swimming offered at our community swimming pools, as well as aqua aerobics. Through a strategic partnership with the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, a robust program of activities are offered at the Maloney, Lavantil, and Mova community swimming pools. Currently, the pools at Couva, Superior, Sangre Grande, Diego Martin, and La Joquita are being refurbished. It is expected that the Superior, Diego Martin, and La Joquita community swimming pools will be reopened by the end of March. The Ministry of Sport and Community Development remains committed to encourage total participation in sport and the development of athletic talent as we use sport as a driver for community development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Pierce. And I'd invite at this stage either of the 2 representatives of the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago to make a brief opening statement if they so wish. Okay, so neither Mr. Ince or Ms. Bava? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. I just want to ask a question to the Deputy PS. Did I hear correctly that Couva is going to be open? Was Couva one of those in the lineup to be open end of March? No.
No, Chairman.
No. Could you just repeat for me?
Superior, Diego Martin, and La Joquita.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so my first question really then is to the representatives of the either the sport company or to the PS of the Ministry of Sport and Community Development. If you all could give us a sort of status overview on each community pool.
Chairman, I will provide a status update. Sorry. So we have 4 community swimming pools opened at this time. We have the Mova, the Maloney, the Lavantil, and the Coquet swimming pool. Coquet was recently reopened on the 9th of January. We have a program of works for the La Joquita, the Diego Martin, and the Sangre Grande and Superior swimming pools. We have completed phase 1 and 2 in some of the swimming pools, and we are at the stage of phase 3 for the La Horquita swimming pool, the Diego Martin swimming pool, and the Superior swimming pool. So we have a schedule of works to be done in terms of a third phase for these swimming pools. However, the Couva swimming pool, we are right now engaging a consultant to look at the structural integrity of the pool. And I could ask our technical director to go into some more detail about the Couva swimming pool.
Okay, so that with Couva,
Yes.
I believe that the information that we would have had is that looking at the structural integrity would have occurred some time ago.
Chairman, I'd like to invite my technical director to give a bit more detail on the Couva swimming pool.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. With respect to the Couva swimming pool, a structural assessment was indeed done by the sports company of Trinidad and Tobago a couple of years ago, and they required further assessments to be done, and they invited the Ministry of Works and Transport to undertake that structural assessment. We have that report, and the report indicated that a further, much more detailed assessment has to be done by use of a senior, more proficient structural engineer at this point. It is with that information that we would have gone through the procurement process to get a structural assessment get a structural assessment done by a suitably qualified company for the Couva swimming pool. We have the procurement process almost completed. We are at the stage where we are actually going to award a contract to one of the successful proponent, and we expect in 1 month's time that a report will be made available for us to determine what is the exact procedure to take with respect to refurbishment or replacement of the Couva swimming pool, Madam Chair.
Okay, so up to this stage, we're not sure whether we could use this pool with some repairs or if we have to condemn the pool altogether.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
And this would have taken us from 2019 to now? How long has this pool been down?
Yes, since 2019, Chairman.
Since 2019? Would I be correct in concluding that Couva Pool was one of the greater generators of revenue of the community pools?
I'd like to invite Mr. Mateo.
So, thank you very much, Deputy Permanent Secretary, and good afternoon again, Chairman. The Couva swimming pool would have been one of those pools that were more popularly used among the original 6. However, the situation with Couva swimming pool is that due to the age of the structure and as well the sort of degeneration that has taken place over a period of time, there would have been some differences of opinion and back and forth that would have been taking place as it relates to whether we should in fact repair, and there would have been some repairs done, or if it is we need to replace. So there would have been some repairs done that would have had the pool ready in 2020. By March 2020, however, of course, we would have gone into lockdowns due to COVID, and then some other issues started to appear with respect to the pool basin. That is where we have reached to the point or started to assess whether we need to actually replace the pool or whether we would refurbish. As Mr. Fullerton would have indicated, that would have gone through its processes in terms of requesting assessments from sports company, then from the Ministry of Works, and the final recommendation was to seek the assessment of a structural engineer, and we are at the point of procuring that person's services at this time.
Thank you. And might I ask, seeing that it was one of the more popular pools, were there any steps taken to cater for that catchment, that user base for the Couva pool?
Well, in terms of a community swimming pool, the Couva swimming pool would have been the only one in the area. Of course, we do have the National Aquatic Center, which at this time is utilized more by the Aquatic Sports Association of Trinidad and Tobago for their training, national and development training with respect to swimming, water polo, and of course the hosting of various competitions at local and international level. So we do not have a learn to swim pool at this particular point in time under the ministry that we can divert persons to.
You know, Mr. McTeer, you know, we shouldn't really talk about the aquatic center. I think that was a bad mention here, because I think I heard something about the aquatic center in the news today, okay, about not functioning. Okay, that was in the news this morning. All right, so let me just ask, so in terms of all the pools, are there any pervasive issues that run across the board? And if they are, what are they?
Right now, we have quite a lot of vacancies in the physical education sport division, specifically swimming instructors and pool attendants. We have begun the recruitment process, however, so we hope that this will be done quickly. We know the other 3 pools will be coming on board in March. We do have the basic staff for those pools, but we would need additional staff. Right now, we have a survey out in terms of, you know, getting from the public what they would like to see at the pools in terms of the hours and the days. And so far, we are seeing people are saying they want the pools to be opened longer hours and on Saturdays and Sundays. With the current staff, we cannot, you know, provide services Saturdays, Sundays. So that is a big challenge we are having. The other challenge we are having, of course, is the timely receipt of our releases. We have had discussions with the Ministry of Finance, and we are working towards improving the efficiency of our requests for releases and, of course, their processing. So that is in train.
Okay. And just to go back a little bit, PS, in terms of initially you said there are 3rd phase to be done on those pools to be open in March. When would that 3rd phase take place?
3rd phase will start in March. I am advised by my technical director that the works in this phase will not affect the pools because they are peripheral. So it would not affect the reopening of the pools, the 3rd phase.
So while the pools are up and functional, the works can go on?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so at this stage, I will open up the inquiry to my fellow members to raise any questions they may wish on this subject. So, yes, Member Dinobriga.
Thank you, Chair. DPS, good afternoon. You speak about the works to be done in phase 3. And of course, I'm asking with particular interest for Diego Martin. What sort of work would be conducted in phase 3?
Thank you, Member. Phase 3 for Diego Martin, we have the resurfacing of the overhaul of the pavilion, the kitchenette, CCTV installation, paving of the car park barbed wire installation on the northern entrance, refurbishment of the security booth, and painting of the administrative building. And of course, the main sign for this facility has to be replaced.
So DPS, my follow-up to that is that sounds, particularly when we talk about paving needing to be done, work on the fence needing to be done, work on the pavilion needing to be done. that those seem to be construction-based events. How would we be able to have it open for members of the community if that sort of work is happening around it?
I would like to invite again my technical director to give some more details on it, because he's, intimately involved in this.
Thank you. Excuse, thank you, DPS. Thank you, member. The works that are envisioned for phase 3 for Diego Martin would not at all deter or render the pool inoperable when these works are taking place, simply because the areas for the works to be carried out will be hoarded off. They would not affect the patrons nor the operators of the pool at all. And it is not like the entire fence to be sorted out. There are so small areas that we have discovered deficiencies in that we're going to take care of.
Chair, if you mind.
All right, so might I invite Member Hislop if he wishes to join the conversation at this stage?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Welcome, officials. Thank you for coming. I noticed in terms of your maintenance, the preventative maintenance plan, it's a very comprehensive plan over all your pools, very detailed. Could you give us some clarity in terms of the implementation of the maintenance plan? How is that going? Because you have it detailed very nicely, but it's one thing to have a plan and another thing to implement it.
Thank you, member. The plan is being implemented, and it's we have had no incidents or issues since the implementation of this plan. I think it was developed in 2019 by the former ministry, and we are implementing the plan. Now, we have staff at the ministry in our project management unit, as well as on the ground at the pools. We have our staff there who have these plans, and they are implementing it. There are some things that are being done weekly, some daily, some monthly, and some quarterly. So we have no challenges right now in terms of the implementation of the plan. There are some areas that we still have to procure certain goods to efficiently operate the pools, but we are on train with that as well.
Just a follow-up, Madam Chair. So, and I appreciate that. I'm happy that the plan is being implemented. What are the checks and balances? So let's say, for instance, I am your maintenance personnel that goes out to let's say, Cookie. Mm-hmm. I come back with a report. What's the escalation from me as your maintenance personnel who goes out to do weekly, quarterly checks? What's the escalation to make sure that if I identify a challenge at Cookie, that it is treated in short order, so that we don't have a situation where we have pools, because we're reopening pools, and by March all your pools should be up and running, or all our pools should be up and running, except Couva.
Except Couva and Sandy Grande.
Right, Couva and Sandy Grande. So we are hoping that with this new maintenance plan in place, that we are not going to have a situation where we are going to have major shutdowns at our community pools. So what's the process after your maintenance personnel comes back in with a report? What's the escalation from there?
Okay, we have, as I said, we have staff from the physical education and sport division, as well as the project management unit, who are responsible for monitoring and the implementation of this plan. So they are identified either by the pool attendants or the managers at the pool. It is escalated to the director of the physical education sport division, who will then inform the technical director of the project management unit. If it is works to be done, scope of works will be developed. If it is goods to be procured, that procurement process will take place. So that is how we work. We work together, the physical education division and the project management unit.
So what's your timeline for a specific issue? Let's say you have a report of a pump. There's a malfunction on a pump. What's your timeline to get that item repaired and back in service? if you have to go through these steps.
I'd invite Mr. Fullerton to give some more details in terms of the timeline, please.
Thank you, Deputy Permanent Secretary, and thanks for the question as well. With respect to what we have to enter into, what we have started implementation, is a preventative maintenance plan. It means that there's no reason why we can't procure specialized equipment and the like during the life cycle of the item. Therefore, we should not be waiting for a pump to become defective before it can be replaced. With respect to repairs to the pump and stuff like that, we do have, and right now the the Physical Education and Sport Division, and we are now doing some cabinet notes to have the preferred special purpose company come on board to help us out with the maintenance package as well. Once they're on board, then they will be responsible for all those short-term repairs and stuff like that, while informing us of what the long-term repairs and replacement packages are supposed to be like, giving us more than sufficient time to have the items procured and stored, just waiting for installation whenever that time comes.
I just wanted to ask something. In terms of, I hear the confidence that this plan is working and so on. Where has this plan been tested? At what schools? Because when you all first came before us, the plan was not as yet finalized or in operation, right? That would have been sometime in 2020. No pools were running, I would expect, in 2020 because of COVID. No pools in 2021 because of COVID. My understanding is that, from what I heard, I might be wrong, Diego Martin, Separia, Couva, Sandy Grande, La Hoqueta, not up and running. So where has this plan, no, the plan looked great as a textbook plan. It's very detailed. I feel anybody could follow it. And if people check in, could check it. But where has this plan been tested?
Chairman and members, since we returned to play, since the opening of our Maloney, our Mova, and even at the Laventil swimming pool, we have, well, as I said, we have a partnership with the Defense Force, and they have a robust testing and monitoring in accordance with this plan. So we have had at least 1 year at the Mova swimming pool and at least 1 year at the Maloney swimming pool. The Coquet swimming pool was only recently opened, but this is the plan we will be using for the Coquet swimming pool as well.
Yeah, but P.S., again, I might be missing something. Mova, Maloney, Laventil have special arrangements.
Right. Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. This is Defense Force. My understanding is this is not an arrangement that applies to the other pools. Agreed? They're not manned by Defense Force people?
No, they're not manned by the Defense Force, but in terms of the monitoring mechanism, the same monitoring mechanism will be used.
The same monitoring mechanism from within your ministry?
The same, because we have meetings with the Defense Force, and we are aware of what they are doing, and they will also be, their monitoring mechanism aligns to our plan.
Okay, so my understanding is you have staff on the ground, you have staff in the ministry, your monitoring is two-pronged, your staff on the ground and your staff in the ministry. We would admit that the staff on the ground at Mova, Maloney, Laventil are special kind of people.
Yes.
Okay? So I come back to the question, what gives us the confidence that what is working there will work in the other places where we don't have that kind of specialist staff?
Chairman, I think that it is working for us, the Coquet swimming pool, and only recently opened, but they will be monitored in this same way using this plan. We would have had learnings from our relationship with the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force, which we will take to Coquier, and of course the other 3 pools which will be opened in March.
Okay, let me ask one question again, please, and then I'll ask Member Dinobrica. What is the staff component at the other pools? You said pool attendants, you told us pool attendants and a manager. If you could tell us the number of pool attendants per pool, the number of managers, and is there something called a warden?
Yes.
That is also
At the pools, yes.
Okay, so if
I
you
will
could
invite Mr. Mattia to
thank you.
to answer that question.
Thank you very much. So at each of the community swimming pools, such as, well, that are not Laventil, Maloney, and Mova, to put it that way, we have a warden, right? One warden at each of these pools. There is administrative staff in terms of clerks that will provide that administrative support to the pools. In terms of the specialist pool staff, we have a pool attendant. In some cases, we have 2. We have swimming instructors, which are also lifeguards for the pool as well, because they are trained lifeguards as per international specifications. And we have assistant swimming instructors. So that will provide the full complement of staff that we have at the pools. So between the pool attendant and the warden more so, they will be the persons who are overlooking the treatment of the pool, the monitoring of the structures of the pool, or the pool's operations, such as the pumps, etc. They will liaise with an assigned officer from the project management unit, as well as from the physical education and sport division. Anytime there may be issues, of course, they are supervised as well by the physical education and sport division as it relates to guiding, providing any information that needs to be placed on the division's responsibility towards ensuring that the pools run properly. So we have devised a system whereby there are pointed persons to which wardens or pool attendants can direct any issues under both the physical education and sport division and the project management unit, so that we can now advance more efficient response to those problems.
Okay, so on the ground level, the accountable person is the warden?
The accountable person for the pool will be the warden. The warden is essentially the overall manager of the pool. And then, of course, you have the pool attendant, who is the sort of operational specialist when it comes to the pool.
You Member Dinobrica?
Thank you, Chair. PS and team, I'm sorry to belabor the point. I think I just need for my own clarification, and maybe it is to say it directly. Is there a report that comes to you as a ministry that speaks to the activities that are supposed to be conducted as part of the maintenance schedule? Daily, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, twice a year, yearly, as needed. Is there a report that accompanies a checklist to say we've done this as required by the schedule, that is signed by someone, if you say the warden is the person, that is signed by someone, that is then submitted to you, in order for you as a ministry to be assured that your maintenance schedule, as you have laid it out, is actually being followed, as apart from somebody saying that they've done it. So that signature allows for a level of accountability. And if there is, what is the frequency in which that report comes to you, and to who does that report go to?
Member, the reports which are done by the pool attendants and the managers are delivered to the sport division. I think in terms of a more robust system, we will have to ensure in terms of it is already signed off for the Director of Sport Division, but there are some areas that we would have to strengthen in this maintenance plan.
If I may?
Yes.
If I may, yes, we do have a monthly meeting that takes place, and there are monthly reports that are provided. However, in terms of an actual checklist that is directly associated with the, if you want to say, the demands of the maintenance plan, that is something we'll have to institute. Where there's an actual direct checklist that goes hand in hand to say, well, okay, weekly we did this, daily we did this. As it stands, we do expect that the warden would be supervising the pool attendant in terms of his or her daily, weekly, monthly duties as it relates to the operations of the pool. And of course, if it is any issues that are coming up, those issues that are related to us quite efficiently. However, we take your point as it relates to having something that is a lot stronger, a lot more robust, and a lot more accountable, and we look to institute such.
I appreciate it. Chair, just one more. So you've laid out the sort of org structure for each pool. Just as a follow-up, somewhere along the same lines of what I've been asking, is there any sort of community component to this? So in other words, are all of these persons people from the ministry, or is there, in line with, let's say, what happens with a community center, where there's a community component to that? And the reason I ask is, if there's community involvement, then there's more buy-in, I would think. So this is just my question is there any community component to the staffing of these the staffing of the pool?
Member, no, there's no community component. When we advertise our positions, they're either filled by the Service Commissions Department or through contract employment, which is an open and transparent recruitment process. But we have had no challenges in terms of usage of the pool or community involvement, because only 1 month the Kokie pool is opened, and already 922 persons have used the pool. So we have no challenge there in terms of community involvement. Yes.
Member Barkas?
Thank you, Chair, and good day to all, and congratulations on that number in Kokie. It's quite an achievement. I want to go back to something that I said earlier, and I want to get an understanding of the impact of primarily 3 issues, as the question posed by Chair, that would have been impacting what was happening with the pools. 3 things mentioned: with the vacancies that you had, the fact that there was a need, and as such a survey was being done to identify use, timing, hours, and so on. And lastly, releases, both from a request perspective and from the processing perspective. How are these things impacting on the operations? So, for example, your maintenance program should have the pools always available. It should be up and running if all goes well, all things being equal. How are these things impacting either the operations, the functions, or the continuous upkeep of the pools? These 3 things, as you mentioned.
Thank you, Member. As I mentioned, we would like to expand the services in terms of the hours of opening, the days of opening. We cannot do that right now. I think Mova, Maloney, they are operating on Saturdays and Sundays. As you know, the Defense Force is in place. When it comes to the releases, that could have a significant impact in terms of the procurement of chemicals and other equipment that we need. So we have had to use chemicals from other pools for the pools that are opened right now. So that is not ideal. So those are the main areas that, I think we have to strengthen. We have to come up with a more workable experience, a more workable relationship with the Ministry of Finance in terms of what we are required to to do and what they are required to do so that we could have speedy and quick releases of funds. We have begun, again, discussions with the Ministry of Finance to see, how we can, if it is that we need to strengthen in terms of the knowledge and the requirements on our part, we are committed to do so. The Ministry of Finance is also committed to sharing what, the deficiencies we may have so that we could have that speedy release of funds.
If I may, and thank you for that. So impactfully, what you're saying is that the hours and so on, you want to expand the services that will work. If you have more people, you could do it, you could get more things done and you have more time to. But the releases part intrigues me. Maybe the Ministry of Finance could chime in to explain. Because from what you're saying, there are learnings to be had on both sides. And the impact of while that is happening is that it could impact procurement for things that you need to keep the pools open. What is the Ministry of Finance and how are you managing that while that ongoing learnings as it is happening? Good evening to the Ministry of Finance, that is.
Thank you, Member, for the question. First of all, I want to point out that the section of the Ministry is the Budgets Division. We represent more or less the Investments Division. So I really cannot speak on behalf of the Budgets Division. But generally, what I can say is what the DPS say, and I could just continue on that vein, that whatever the requirements are of the Budgets Division, the line will have to follow it, the line ministry. And if there's more stringent requirements to submit to the Budget Division for releases, I think that is the way they should go.
Okay, so I just maybe want to follow this up with something, the conversation. The way I understand it is the Deputy PS is saying, look, we're going to attack the issue of funding two-pronged. On our end, meaning the ministry end, you will be more efficient in asking. Okay, I guess your timing and so would improve. And you develop a better relationship with the Ministry of Finance, okay? But the Ministry of Finance in its submission has said to us, Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago requests releases for various facilities, including community pools, to meet obligations to service providers, payment of utilities, janitorial, and security as an aggregate sum. Specific amounts are not detailed in making requests for funding, and releases comprises funds to meet janitorial, maintenance, security, utilities, landscaping, technical maintenance, pool maintenance, repair and maintenance, legal settlement, and operational expenses. Payment for services provided to community swimming pools is determined by the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited. Is this submission outdated?
Chairman, right now the Sport Company, they are providing, they are managing the security, janitorial, and services for the Coquier, Couva, Diego Martin, La Hawketa, Sandy Grande, and Superior pools. So they are managing the contracts for MTS and the other security providers. So that is where they will be requesting the funding to provide, to pay for these services.
It is your ministry that will request the funding, say, for chemicals, yes, personnel, TSTT.
Yes.
That yes, will be your ministry.
Yes.
Okay? So let me ask this. Thus far, what your experience has been to give you the hope that what you could control is that your end in asking more effectively and efficiently for releases would bring about an improvement. And I ask that specifically in light of a big arrears that was accumulated to TNTech. Now, we have other big arrears, but I'm just dealing with TNTech as the biggest one, with a submission given by you all that at some point you had entered into an arrangement for a payment schedule. I think at the time, somewhere in 2020, that arrears balloon was some 650 something thousand plus dollars. And that even though you had entered into an arrangement with TNTech for payment by installments, you had only knocked off 20% of the arrears because of releases weren't being done in a timely manner. So one, I'm asking, what gives you the confidence that asking more timely and this improved relationship would redound to the benefit of you getting your releases? What has been the experience to support that?
Chairman, in terms of the arrears, we still have a large figure in terms of our arrears. Last fiscal, we would have submitted a supplement for supplemental funding. We did not receive any. We only received, the ministry only received 5 million for gratuity, and of course Sport TT received 62 million for services, various service providers. The ministry's debt, is still large. What we are doing right now is paying, we are paying current bills, and again, when we approach midterm, we will be asking for additional funding for age payables.
So in terms of, if I were to conclude, I would conclude that your history, right, with respect to this improved relationship and this asking timely may not give you the results that you expect. That's what I would conclude. Because from what you've told me, I mean, I'll be shy to accept that you didn't ask on time.
No, I think we asked on time.
Okay.
Now, with respect to the consumables, in terms of our recurrent budget there, we have asked in a timely manner. However, we did not get releases in a timely manner. Age payables is something else, right? So in terms of the improved relationship, only on Monday we had a meeting with the Ministry of Planning and Development and the Ministry of Finance Budget Division, where we went through some of our issues with respect to the way and the timeliness of our submissions, and of course their requests as well. So we are hoping that, we are committed to attending to the issues that are affecting both ministries in terms of giving us the funds we need on a timely basis.
Member Marcus?
As you speak of the arrears, I was actually looking through it. So for swimming pools, you expect security, water, chemicals to deal with things around it, pumps, pools. What I did notice was a sizable amount owed to telecommunications providers. Explain that to me.
Sorry, member. I was just consulting. I apologize. I don't have the details in terms of, with me, with respect to telecommunications.
But is it that you have significant telecommunications infrastructure at the pools themselves?
What I can say, sir, is that the arrears go back quite a few years. I can't actually pinpoint what year, but the arrears do go back when, before this particular ministry, as it's named, was actually put together. So we have been working through our accounting unit as it relates to trying to get those age payables taken care of. I know that there would have been requests made to get the necessary funding to be able to have those paid. However, we have not seemed to be successful in terms of getting the releases and being able to pay those bills. But what I can say from as the director of the division through which these bills come is that I regularly certify bills and send them through for payment, and I regularly liaise with the point person in our general administration department to ensure that those bills are indeed sent across to accounts, and I believe that accounts has been doing the necessaries as it relates to seeking the necessary releases to pay these bills. And these will, and when it comes to telecommunications, we're talking about, of course, phone as well as internet. And we have been, in many cases, unfortunately, we haven't had the use of these services because of the fact that these bills have been so much in arrears.
Marcus?
Yeah, if I may. So there is actually a telecommunications component to the services provided at the pools. And we mentioned phones could be for administrative purpose, but internet, is that also for the administration or for the people who would be attending and utilizing the pool itself?
No, that would be for the administration.
So it's all for the administration?
Yes.
Okay, so, Member Dionorain?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon again to everyone. DPS, let me just start off with something that you mentioned earlier when Madam Chair asked you about the challenges that you currently experience. And there were primarily two challenges, one in terms of vacancies and two in terms of the timeliness of receipts from timeliness of releases from the Ministry of Finance. I want to focus first on the vacancies issue. Now, I know Mr. McIntyre would have alluded to the complement of staff at each pool, the complement of staff that the pools are manned with. But correct me if I am wrong, is the complement of staff at each one of the pools, or is it rotating across all the pools? Because from my understanding, there's one overall manager at each pool, and you have administrative staff, approximately 2 at each pool, and then the specialized staff, we didn't get a number of them at each one of the pools. Are they rotating?
No, I don't have the exact numbers for each of those specialized staff off the top of my head. I know definitely pool attendants, we at least have one pool attendant per pool. In some cases, we do have 2, but I know in most cases, you have one pool attendant per pool, and there should be at least 2 to 3 swimming instructors, as well as another 2 to 3 assistant swimming instructors, at least in terms of posts. At this particular time, we do have a cadre of short-term contract staff that have been providing services where we have had vacancies as swimming instructors and assistant swimming instructors. That also would have come about when it is we sought in, I think it was in 2016 or 17, we sought to have those vacancies filled. And it was said that the persons who would have applied did not have the requisite experience. So we had to create those short-term positions as aquatic officers 2 and aquatic officers 1 to be able to supplement the staff. So what we're trying to do now is to seek to have those actual public service positions filled and utilizing those staff that now have the experience. And if it is, we can supplement even further, that especially in order to satisfy the demand for the pools to be open on Saturdays and Sundays, then we'll do so.
Okay, Chair, with your permission, can I ask for in writing that they submit for each one of the pools the number of staff for each area of expertise? and also, if it is possible, the number of vacancies for that you are having trouble to fill for each one of these pools. Do you have a general number that you could let us know in the interim?
Member, yes. For the Physical Education and Sport Division, we have 39 of the positions filled, 77 vacant, 16 with bodies and 61 without bodies. That is for the entire division, not specific to the pools. On our contract establishment, we have all 36, all 36 sport development officer positions vacant, and 12 coaches vacant.
And what is usually your complement of coaches required? The total amount. How much you have hired right now?
Just one. We have just one coach.
One coach?
One coach, yes.
So how is that one coach utilized across all the pools?
The coach is not for the pools.
Okay.
Not for general. The coaching complement would be for general sport development programs that take place in schools and communities.
Okay, all right, thanks. P.S. Chair, if you allow me, P.S. Tell me, could you elaborate for me? Now, you mentioned you have the issue of timely releases from the Ministry of Finance. Even if you are to go through the procurement process to hire these persons, do you have money to pay these persons?
We will have to do a priority listing of the positions to be filled. So far, we have determined that we need instructors and we need the pool attendants.
Okay, all right. With respect to the timeliness of releases from the Ministry of Finance, could you tell us how long this has been a problem? Because I'm looking at a document that was submitted to us as at September 1st, 2020, we had a total of $861,000 in aged payables, right? What is that figure to date? And also how long the problem of timeliness of releases has been occurring?
Remember, I will have to give you that in writing in terms of the current debt. Timeliness of releases is something we have been facing for quite a while. Most of our releases, as you know, requests for releases are ad hoc releases. And I don't have in terms of a specific time frame for each request, but I know for the Physical Education and Sport Division, with respect to chemicals, we had probably, it is like a 2 months in terms of from the date we submitted our requests. We submitted requests in December and we only recently got our releases. Some of the providers, like the particular provider we have selected for chemicals, they want the check as they deliver. So we are right now preparing that check. That should be done tomorrow.
It was done today.
Okay, it was done today. So tomorrow we will be getting our chemicals. So, you know, it is affecting the relationship we have with suppliers and even contractors, because some people are not even responding to our requests. We are seeing people are no longer wanting to provide services to us. And you know the area of, in terms of chemicals and servicing the pools as a specialized area. So, you know, it will impact on us if this continues. So, as I said, we are looking at our internal processes to ensure that we do things efficiently. so that we can get the releases on time.
Okay, Chair, I have one more question. I want to direct it to the Ministry of Finance. Now, Mr. Maraj and Ms. Mohammed, could you explain exactly what is your role with the Ministry of National Security and Sport TT as members of the Investment Division of Ministry of Finance? Oh, sorry, Ministry of Ministry of Sport. Sorry, my apologies.
Thank you for the question. The Investments Division, we are the, we provide the oversight, monitoring of all the state enterprises. And that includes reports. So we monitor using the
state enterprise performance monitoring
manual. All these enterprises will submit requests, they will submit their reports, they will provide their financial statements. We attend their annual meetings, we submit all their reports where required to Parliament, the financial statements. Any issue, we also look at the rationalization of the enterprises.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so then you are no way at all involved with the allocation of finances, the releases of finances to any one of the ministries?
No.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, member. That was a nice way of putting it. I would have asked them in what way they could assist the inquiry. I think that's what we would really like to know, rather than, asking you all questions that you can't answer. Because I note that in the first inquiry, it was not Investment Division who came as the representatives of the Ministry of Finance. So having regard to the nature of the inquiry, maybe Ms. Babur and Mr. Maybe Mr. Maraj and Ms. Mohammed could tell us, having regard to the nature of the inquiry, how they think they can assist us in the conversation. It will help us direct, relevant questions to you.
Thank you, Chair. But what I can say is that our role primarily in the Investments Division, as Ms. Mohammed has said, is in monitoring and providing oversight of state-owned enterprises. So in this context, if it was something fall under Sport TT, we may be able to assist. But once it is the Ministry of Sport and Community Development, we may not have any direct relationship in terms of assisting the committee at this time, as we really don't monitor projects under the ministry itself, but rather under the state enterprises, state-owned enterprises.
Thank you very much. So I just wanted to invite Mr. Dinabrika at this stage to ask any questions.
So there are two questions coming out of this I just want to ask. One, my colleague would have raised some of the outstanding arrears. I just want to know, when it comes to things like TSTT's rate, the outstanding amount for TSTT and for TN Tech in particular, what rates are these entities billed at? So is it at residential rates? Is it at commercial rates? Is it at industrial rates? What is the rate that they're billed at?
Respond in writing, maybe.
Member, we will respond in writing, please.
And just as another thing, across the board. My apologies. Specifically, you spoke about requesting releases for chemicals, but I would think this would be applicable to a lot of the things that are part of your day-to-day operations of these pools. And it has to do with scheduling your release requests. So when you purchase, and let's use chemicals as the example, if you have to purchase chemicals for your pool, do you purchase enough for a specific amount of time? So let's say 3 months, and then within that 3 months, make a request for another 3 months. So let's say by month 2, you make a request in order to fulfill the check on delivery. So that's actually what I want to find out.
Member, that is exactly what we do. So we have this in terms of it, we procure for 3 months because we cannot keep a large amount of chemicals on the compound, right? So we procure for 3 months. We've already started the process of procuring for April. We have April pools. This is something very big for our ministry in April. So yes, April pools. So we've started the procurement process for that. And of course, in April, more pools will be opened, so the demand will be greater as well.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to intervene as my colleague raised the whole issue of procurement, and I remember in your submission you all mentioned that under the previous, when the ministry was under the Ministry of Community Development, a pre-qualification list existed for the period 2020 to 20. Did it exist already for the period 2020 to 2022?
Yes, we have the 2017-2020 procurement list. We've already prepared our expressions of interest to go out to review the pre-qualification list so people can now pre-qualify again. So we are in the process of doing that. I think the ad should go out very soon.
Okay, so could you describe the process for us?
Okay, so we at the ministry, we prepare our expression of interest. We look at all the areas in terms of goods, work, services, and we prepare a document which we publish in the newspaper as well as online, inviting contractors, companies to pre-qualify. When that is done, the project management unit and the procurement unit, we have a functioning procurement unit, will go through all the submissions. There's a criteria. They will go through the criteria with each company, and then we will determine whether they are pre-qualified. We will prepare a list which we would then put on our, all members of staff, all heads, will have that pre-qualified list, and it is from that list that we will do our procurement. We've also requested registration with the OPR for their depository. So we are in the process, I think it will be very soon, we will get access to the depository. So we have, of course, the OPR's depository is very, very large. So very soon we'll have access to that. However, we are reviewing our pre-qualification list right now.
Do you have a timeline in mind, given that the expression of interest is going out very soon? And also, are you in a position to explain to us very briefly the criteria?
Okay, the criteria will include the company's registration, it will include the years, the staffing, it will include all the statutory documentation they are supposed to have, a clear listing of personnel in their company. All of that we will be looking at before they are pre-qualified.
Do you expect or foresee that some suppliers, existing suppliers who may have some sort of challenge with receiving finances on time, may not necessarily take advantage of applying for this expression of interest?
I really hope not, but that is not something I could predict. We've had the last list, the 2017-2020 list. We saw some of our suppliers did not express interest to be pre-qualified with us. However, those were few. We saw other companies asking to be pre-qualified after. So this time we will have the open pre-qualification. But I really hope that those who have served us and who have waited for their funds will pre-qualify again.
Okay, and with respect to the timeline?
Pre-qualification is a lengthy, a tedious job. And the last occasion, it took us almost 2 months to complete the pre-qualification exercise. So I'm looking at probably around 2 months. Of course, it depends on the number of companies who request to be pre-qualified. On the last occasion, it took about 2 months for the entire process to be completed.
And was that because, did it take 2 months because there was not appetite or a lot of persons expressing interest such that you had to extend the period of the expression of interest, or is it for other reasons?
No, on the last occasion, we had a close-off.
Okay.
So at the close of that expression of interest, we then did the review to pre-qualify the contractors. That process took about 2 months because of the number of contractors we received. We got the procurement unit and the PMU. It's usually a double check before we approve that list.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, DPS.
Okay, so thank you. I just wanted to find out, in terms of the fee structure was being revised, what is, the status of that?
It's still ongoing. We haven't decided, we haven't come to a decision as yet. However, right now, our pools, the newer pools, they are free of charge.
Okay, so that will be Laventil, Mova,
and yes.
Laventil, Mova, and
Koki, and Koki as well.
And Koki,
yes.
They are free of charge. Yes. So the 900 and something people you have attracted at Koki swim free.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. The other pools that will be coming, which are the older pools who are coming back on by March, would it be the same 40, I think it was $40 per person, $100 per school? What is it per term?
I would think we would still have to decide in terms of that when those 3 pools are opened in March.
Yes.
We have to decide whether we would go with the same fee structure or whether it will also be free of charge.
Okay, so could you therefore warn PS in your follow-up, because March is just now, so it means that decision, I think, is imminent.
Yes.
So could you give us in writing what the proposal is with respect to those? So is there any pool right now that is functional, that operates with a fee structure?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to ask is this. Certainly from some of the submissions from the Ministry of Finance and what we've discussed there, releases, the timeliness of releases and your requests, those seem to match. In fact, in a submission the Ministry of Finance made in terms of releases to your ministry, they would have said that's subject to availability of funds. I want to ask, and it's a discussion we've had with you all before, has there been any advance in the discussion and decision about commercializing the pools?
No discussion that I'm aware of right now.
Okay. All right, so let me ask, with respect to Diamond Vale, hadn't there been prior to COVID, and for at least 24 years prior, been some relationship with a private entity and the use of the Diamondville pool?
Yes, Chairman, yes.
Is there a cost attached to that? Is there any revenue generated from that?
I'd ask Mr. Matea to speak on that.
Yes, there is a fee structure that is attached to the use of the pool by the particular private entity.
Would I be wrong in saying that there is an opportunity from that model with all the pools to enter into similar kinds of arrangements?
Yes, there is definitely an opportunity. Of course, with the pools such as Laventil, Maloney, Mova, and Coquier, there would have been a policy decision made by the government of the day to ensure that those particular pools remain free of charge, while the older pools, so to speak, would have had a fee structure that would have been from long before.
Yeah.
So in terms of the revision of the fee structure of those older pools, that is something that we'll have to decide on and then, of course, take to Cabinet for its approval. However, how we treat with some of the pools being free of charge and some of the pools actually functioning for revenue is going to be one of those decisions that we'll have to discuss at a higher level and probably even submit to Cabinet for a particular decision.
Okay.
I mean, I guess could be looked at as a bit unfair that some persons in some communities have to pay, while other persons in other communities they get to use the pools for free.
Okay, so let me ask this. Where have you all reached in looking at preparing a note with respect to that?
We have had we are looking at a overall revision of fee structures across the facilities of both the ministry and the sports company. So we have had discussions with sport company representatives. We would have come forward with a particular level at a particular level, we have come to some recommendations. What we need to do is to discuss a little bit further in terms of finalizing those recommendations, which will be then put forward to Cabinet via note.
How long those discussions have been in train?
Yeah, it has been about a year. To be honest, it has been about a year. We have admittedly just been distracted by other matters, events that take place that have sort of pulled the particular personnel who would have been discussing this matter away from dealing with the revision of the facilities fee structure.
Okay, you see, I am getting the impression that we have facilities, we have challenges with the facilities, we have a great demand for the facilities, okay? I'm sure the member for Diego Martin Central will know better than me the demand for the use for that Diamondville pool. We talk about learn to swim, but certainly the elderly, I know a couple of elders, and not my kind of elders, senior to me, who, I mean, it's not just only the physical benefits, but also the social benefits that pool in the last 5 months, at least 5 of them died. I don't know if that they don't have the social outlet apart from the benefit of the physical outlet. And I can't understand, I can't get from this discussion a reason that programs like these are not operating. You can't fulfill the need, but there are people out there. You all have told us liability issues. If you had a Diamondville model, it means that the liability issue either has been addressed or ignored. But I haven't heard any discussion that in the 24 years, some liability issue cropped up that left you exposed. So I don't get a sense that this is being pursued with any kind of vigor. And we just have assets lying down there and not serving the purpose it was intended to. We can't do it, but others can. Arrangements, I'm sure, could be made. What's happening?
In terms of the Laventil, Mova, and Maloney swimming pools, under...
Say this, just to put the conversation in context. You see Laventil, Maloney, and Mova, let me put them as special. Okay? So, when we're dealing with the special pools, we'll talk about the special pools. Okay? So, I would like us to not deal with the special pools in this context.
Noted, Chairman. As it relates to the other pools, where, as we have them reopened, we are looking at those proposals that have come to us with respect to the utilization of those pools for programs outside of what the ministry normally provides. For example, a Coquier pool, considering that it has been reopened, we have received a number of proposals, not anything as yet for senior citizens. However, we have had a couple of clubs that have submitted letters requesting the use of the pools. We are currently looking at those requests, and we will be collaborating with the persons who would have proposed their means of being able to develop a partnership, and we'll seek to engage them accordingly. At the other pools, we are open to
So, Mr.
having
McTeer,
that sort
not to cut
of...
you, just before you go on to the other pools, those for Coquier that you have proposals, give me a timeline that you would consider and come to a determination, yea, nay, or in between.
We are seeking to have finalization of those discussions by mid-March.
And who makes the determination to go ahead? Do you have to go to Cabinet for that?
Not that I know of. I think that will be, at this time, that will be a determination that will be made within the...
At the ministry level? So, P.S., could you give me a kind of timeline?
I think we'll be committed to do this before the end of March. Yes. Now, Chairman,
Yeah.
may I? I know you indicated that the three pools are special and we will not consider those. But when the pools were closed, these three pools were not there. And we will have a challenge, as the director is saying, in terms of the payment for some and non-payment for others. But we will be reviewing it. We will review the whole matter.
Okay, just before I'll take you, Member Hislop, but I really interjected when Mr. McTeer was speaking just to ask him a particular question. So maybe I should give him an opportunity to complete his statement, and then the floor will be open to you, Member Hislop.
I more or less may have lost my train of thought there.
You just admitted that is what happened with respect to the proposals.
No,
that's what you told me.
Not at all, not at all.
You didn't say it in those words, but that's what I concluded. That's why I stopped you.
No, but I mean, as I said, we'll be looking at mid-March as it relates to finalizing the discussions with respect to those proposals, and of course, it'll be an in-house decision as to how it is we move forward with the engagement of those persons who would have proposed. And we are open, and I think that's where I was going to go. We are open to inviting, or we are open to any proposals that come forward to the other pools when it is those pools are reopened as well.
So wait till the reopening. You know they're coming in March.
Well, if people provide proposals beforehand,
you can do it from before.
Then great.
Yes.
We don't have an issue with that at all. In fact, as thinking about it, we have already been in discussion with one of our technical staff where water polo is concerned, and the development of water polo at other pools apart from the 3 special pools.
Member Hislop.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to piggyback on the Diamondville situation before I move to something else. What is the fee structure? What was the fee structure that we were engaged in with this entity? And what was the relationship between the entity and the ministry in terms of the expectations, maintenance, and all of those kind of things?
I don't have the actual fee that the particular entity would have paid off the top of my head. However, what I do know is that the entity would have been utilizing the pool at a particular time frame, which would have been, of course, earlier than our normal opening hours. So it didn't affect our normal operations and our programs. Also, we would have had an arrangement, so to speak, whereby with regards to certain minor repairs where we were having issues in terms of getting the funding to repair on time, there would have been assistance provided in having those repairs taken care of. And that basically was the nature of the arrangement.
So it was a written arrangement.
I wouldn't say it was a written arrangement from the standpoint of, okay, well, like a formal public-private partnership. I wouldn't say it was a formal PPP. It was a matter where the entity utilized the pool, they paid the particular fee for the use of the pool as per the fee structure that exists. And upon having some issues that the entity thought, well, within his remit he could assist with to be able to continue the operations of the pool, that would have been taken care of and would have come to some agreement in terms of how that was done.
Madam Chair, if it worked for 20-something years successfully, I see it as something to be explored for the other pools as well, and I'm hoping that the ministry puts a little speed.
Sure, it's just a matter of formalizing,
yes.
And I think that's the thing. It's a matter of formalizing it. So what we have actually been doing is, based on the proposals that have been submitted, we are going to, we're having that discussion with our legal services unit to ensure that whatever is formalized is fair to both parties. So I think that's the element that we have to get to, formalizing the arrangement, as opposed to having what has been a somewhat ad hoc relationship in the past.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, if I'm allowed, I just want to jump to the role of Sport TT. They've been here with us, and we haven't heard anything from them yet. But there's something I just wanted to highlight, that Ministry of Sport was supposed to provide update on the efforts as it relates to security services and janitorial services. Was that note, based on what I'm seeing here, was that note done? Was it provided to Cabinet? And what are the reasons for the delay if it has not gone to Cabinet yet? That's for security and landscaping and so on. And have we had any issues of vandalism at our pools?
Member, the note was prepared for Cabinet. We had some changes to make, and we resubmitted it today to our Permanent Secretary for consideration of the Minister. And that is for the Mova and Maloney pools. The other pools are secured by the sport company. And Laventil, yes.
Yeah, that remains under the
Yeah.
ministry.
Laventil is also under the ministry.
So,
But MTS is in place for Laventil pool.
Okay. So,
The
Madam
note
Chair,
that we prepared for cabinet is for the Maloney
Maloney
and the Mova pool, because right now, UDCOT is still providing those services for us.
okay. So, for my information, for the information of the public, what is really the relationship between Sport TT and the Ministry of Sport when it comes to the community pools?
Sport TT manages the contracts for maintenance, janitorial, security for all the other pools. As per cabinet decision, that was a cabinet decision.
For the older pools?
Yes.
And Ministry of Sport deals with the newer
Laventil,
pools.
and we are looking to enter into a contract with MTS for the Maloney and the Mova pool.
For Maloney.
Yes.
So what prevents one entity from managing all of the sites?
With respect to the other pools, we have a cabinet decision regarding MTS providing janitorial, maintenance, and landscaping. We also have sport TT. If, of course, MTS cannot meet the manpower, then, we have another challenge in place. Sorry. Well.
But Madam Deputy PS, I was hoping that I would hear the representatives from Sport TT chime in with regards. We have the head of facilities and so on from Sport TT. Not. Yeah.
So, well, that's where we are at with the note
Right.
for cabinet, and that should go, once it is approved by the minister, that should go to cabinet soon.
Okay. And from a Sport TT perspective, in terms of the relationship?
Yes, well, as the PS mentioned, we manage the payment of the contracts for servicing the grounds and janitorial maintenance contracts and security. There are some locations which MTS could not provide full coverage of the security, in which case we have gone to alternative service providers. But that is the extent to what our involvement in the services provided at those pools.
And how many facilities MTS was unable to provide?
I'm not 100% sure. Do you have?
6. Hi, 6.
6?
Yes.
I don't know, Madam Chair, with your permission, if it could be provided to us, whether in writing or if you have it. Yeah. The other, well, the providers of security for the other locations that MTS was unable to manage. And the
Well,
cost.
may I? Okay, sure. May I respond?
Sure, if you have, yeah, sure.
Okay, so we have 4 other security firms providing services for the pools through Sport TT, providing the security services. The total cost, the monthly cost for should I give the names of the Okay, sure. Okay, so we have Protect providing security at the Coquille swimming pool, $44,550 per month. We have Heller providing security services at the Couva swimming pool, same $44,550. We have SWAT providing security at the Diego Martin, La Joqueta, and Sandy Grande swimming pools, $48,000 for Diego Martin, $44,212.50 for Sandy Grande, and $43,200 for La Joqueta, $44,212, and Sandy Grande, $43,200. We have IBIS providing security at Superior Swimming Pool, $44,928 per month. MTS is providing the ground maintenance and janitorial for the pools.
All right. What was the challenge with MTS being unable to provide the security services for those pools where we had to bring in another entity?
I'll invite Sport TT to respond.
Yeah, staffing, they were short of manpower to provide those services. They are reviewing this at the moment, and we expect a meeting with them to discover whether we can they can provide coverage for the balance that these balance that we mentioned here.
Madam Chair, one final from me. How do we? I'm trying to find the correct way to word the question so that. So MTS was unable to provide the manpower. Do we have outstanding payments to MTS and these other security entities?
Thank you, Member. Yes, currently we do have outstanding payments. The most recent payments they all would have received was as at October 2022. So we currently have outstanding payments for November, December, January.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes.
Can I just ask Ms. Bavoy if you can give us a list in writing of those outstanding, the contracts, the duration of the contracts, the monthly sums? I think Acting Deputy PS would have told us, but if you could get that in writing, and the outstanding sums. And the last date you would have asked for releases in respect of those outstanding sums.
Certainly.
Yes, thanks. May I invite Mrs. Morris-Julian to join the conversation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, I must admit, coming from a local government background, I was a little concerned when I heard about ad hoc arrangements, because I know of the complications and also the sense of entitlement persons may get. Is there any plans for a set policy, and who could contribute towards this policy regarding the use for, we're using Damien Vale as an example once more? Because I can also tell you, the Arima Velodrome, we created a sports policy, and we also said it was free for every NGO. And then from that day forward, every application came in from an NGO. It was no longer private citizens and I think at one time a FET was listed as a NGO in order to use this space. So I'm just asking from that perspective, and also, I also know that people care for items that they pay for. It seems to matter so much more. What aspect of community engagement with regards to the running of these pools? Do you engage with the leaders in the community, the local government? What exactly would this entail? Because I know from personal experience, people care for spaces that they have a role to play in. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for those questions, Member. Currently, we do not have any engagements with the communities as it relates to the operations or administration of our facilities. As I would have indicated earlier, the facility, the pools, if I be more specific to pools, the older pools would have had a fee structure, though minimal, but they would have had a fee structure that would have existed. And all users of the pool would have engaged the pool with that fee structure. More recently, we have had pools built, starting with Koki in 2007, and then Laventil, the special pools, as they're called, Laventil, Maloney, Mova. And we have received a mandate from the government that of the day that those pools were to remain free of charge to the public. What we have in terms of engaging any community groups and so, that is something that we always pay close attention to, that element of entitlement that could exist. As it stands, we have that one arrangement as we spoke about. That has worked well. As it pertains to engaging any others, as we are doing right now, we are looking to formalize those arrangements to ensure that we do not have that issue of entitlement taking place, and the relationship remains mutually beneficial. However, there's an understanding as to the ownership of the particular facilities.
Thank you, Chair. We've been using Diamond Vale a lot, so I will continue using Diamond Vale, all right? The Chairman would have pointed out, and very, very rightly so, that pool was very much the heart of the Diamond Vale community. So it's obviously it's not being available has impacted. But as we look to reopen in April, it is what, end of March? End of March? Chair says March. Obviously, and this is tying into Member Morris Julian's point, there are going to be private entities that are going to want to utilize the facilities. Let's be honest, a pool that can be utilized for an event is not available to everyone. And I want to make the distinction between people having to pay to use the pool as opposed to it being free, and the pool being a commercially viable entity that allows for that free use while funds are being brought in to add to the maintenance. So you're going to have very much like what we had before, aqua aerobics, you're going to have occupational therapists, physical therapists, you're going to want to have people who will want to have weddings there, you will have the parties, whether they are NGO or not. How is that going to work? Because if it becomes a part of the community is going to want to use it for events. No, I don't expect that to be a free sort of relationship. So how is that going to work in order to maintain? Well, you want to ensure that if something happens, you're going to have contractual arrangements. You want to ensure the liability issue, Chair. And what is the timeline for us to be able to say, well, there's something in place, a mechanism in place for these facilities to be utilized in that way?
So, and excellent points, member. We will definitely have to create a policy, as I would have stated earlier. We are engaging with our legal services unit as it relates to those proposals that we have received. And yes, we'll have to create a policy that will help to guide how it is we relate to any other entities that wish to utilize the pool, what the type of costing would be, and of course what we'll also have to look at based on the requests will be how those proposals impact the normal day-to-day operations and accessibility of the pool to the general public. That is and will always be our first priority, due to the fact that we want to, one of the mandates of the pool is to spread the ability of swimming and water safety to as many people as possible. So we cannot and will not in any way do anything that will negatively affect the achievement of that mandate. However, we understand the viability with respect to, utilizing the pool spaces as commercial entities that can help to bring in revenue. So we'll have to find a balance That will be done through policy. That will be done in consultation with our legal services unit.
Chair, if I'm taking pattern, do you all have a timeline for that?
Oh, well, you mentioned mid-March, end of
For
March.
that for
I'll
those
go with what
policies.
I'll go what DPS said in terms of end of March.
Yeah, and I heard March, so I know March starts on
Well,
the 1st. So that was my expectation.
She did say end of March, and considering the events between now and the end of February or start of March, as you said, I think it would be better that and more feasible to all of us, that we go with the end of March.
So I want to say this, that the committee would have visited Koki just a month shy of the opening date. And I want to commend the team, because I want to quote Mr. Fullerton, who said, "It is only an act of God or a climate event in an insurrection those were the words, would have stopped the pool from opening." So we had none of those, and the pool opened. So I want to congratulate you on that. But I want to ask this. Am I correct that Sport TT manages that Koki? Or we got that wrong?
They provide the
Just the
contract.
janitorial and so on?
Yes, yeah, just
Okay.
that. The management is the ministry.
Okay, great.
We have the manager there, and all the staff there are ministry staff.
Right, okay, all right. So thank you very much. We had that wrong. What I want to find out is the pool is open. Our observations. The facilities required cleaning, reinforced fencing, painting, and power washing. Was that done?
Chairman, that is for the Koki pool?
Koki?
Yes, that was done.
Okay, we were there, no?
Yes.
No, P.S., I think you joined us in Mova.
Yes,
Okay.
it was done.
Algae and moss surrounded the pool walls and the pool itself, which was a breeding ground for, this is a nice word, aquatic life. Really tadpoles and insect larvae. Was that treated with?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay, I will show you my pictures, I will show you my pictures of what we saw. So I hope you have pictures to show me what is. All right. The chair for disabled elderly persons to enter the pool was non-functional. Is it working?
No, that's still non-functional. Still non-functional.
Chairman, that is still to be addressed.
Still to be addressed. When?
I'll invite Mr. Fullerton to speak on that, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, DPS. Madam Chair, the issue pertaining to the disabled access to the pool, that is to be addressed as soon as the procurement. We have to source the item. It's a bit aged, and to repair it might be a little bit challenged, so we are now in the process of looking for a new lift system to put inside of it. That would take place in phase 3, simply because that is the period in which we're going to address that issue, Madam Chair.
Oh, so what I'm being told is that the chair was really for phase 3 and we didn't reach phase 3 as yet?
No. The chair was supposed to have been repaired when we had that site visit right thereafter. However, sourcing the parts for it proved to be a significant challenge. So we now may have to replace the entire component, which would now be done in phase 3.
And phase 3 ends in March, I think.
It begins at the end of March, and it should last a period of about 2 months total to get all the items sorted out, simply because we have to do it while the pool is in operation, Madam Chair.
So that's May?
Yes, Madam Chair. End of May, to be precise.
Thank you. All right, so I know when we're coming back. Water fixtures in the washroom and changing rooms were corroded, resulting in water leaking from pipes and running off into drains. Was that dealt with?
Those items have been repaired, along with the ceiling issues that were coming from the tiers. The ceiling has been replaced in its entirety, Madam Chair.
Okay, let me ask something. As far as the fixtures and those fittings for faucets and so, what grade do we use?
You must go with, it wouldn't be household appliance standard at all.
It's not residential, it's commercial?
It must be commercial or industrial, it must be. What took place in that facility is that in error, stored the chemicals to the pool in that area, and as a result of the corrosive atmosphere, the items were compromised in the process. So although it was industrial grade components and fixtures in the environment, the storage of chemicals provided an unsafe and untidy arrangement, and therefore it resulted in
Okay.
compromise.
So lessons learned. is
Lessons
what?
learned, definitely.
So we're not no longer storing chemicals and so
No, Madam Chair.
any washrooms.
It was in some sort of exuberance that they wanted to store so much chemical that you wouldn't have an issue, that the length of time it was there caused the issue. So now the throughput is now being managed where we will not have that issue taking place again.
Okay. Mr. Fullerton, you provide me with so much material to quote you verbatim. Lighting fixtures in all washrooms and changing rooms are not working. Was that addressed?
They too have been addressed, Madam Chair.
Existing swimming lanes were left to the elements in a state of disrepair.
Swimming lanes.
You know what you call them? I
The lane ropes.
The ropes,
Lane
yes,
ropes
the
and
lane
markers and
ropes.
stuff.
They've been repaired? Well, they'll have to be replaced.
They have to be replaced. Once they are subjected to the elements, they have to be replaced because they become
Right.
compromised.
So how we swimming if the lane ropes not there? We have lane ropes?
Okay, through the Physical Education and Sports Division, that will become one of the items to be procured. As it is right now, the swim instructors are the persons really taking care of the facilities, and they are working as best as they can there, Madam Chair.
The procurement is phase 3 or next week?
No, the procurement will be something separate that will be done. However, the usage of the pool as it relates to learn to swim and so wouldn't really require the use of lane ropes. You tend to utilize the lane ropes if it is you either want to probably have a competitive meet, or if it is you need to separate certain swimmers from others, depending on what the program is. However, we will look to, while not giving a timeline just yet, we will definitely be looking into seeking to procure lane ropes. The matter at hand will be our allocation, due to the fact that we would have already procured under that particular vote, materials and supplies. We would have already procured chemicals, and we have another batch of chemicals that we're seeking to procure, as DPS would have alluded to earlier. So we'll have to look at going through the procurement process, but making sure that we get the necessary transfer of funds to that particular vote.
Okay, so maybe I can ask this, Mr. McTeer. Is it that you run programs that don't require lane ropes? Yes. And therefore, if you run programs that you don't require lane ropes, why would you be spending money to procure lane ropes?
It will be instructive to procure lane ropes, especially if it is we're going to be housing or accommodating rather swimming clubs. And that's the thing. If the proposals that we have for Kokia, for example, mainly from swimming clubs, so we'll have to seek to procure the ropes, at least for the sake of separating athletes when it is they're actually engaging in their training, and also if it is they want to have any meets at the pool.
All right, so your acquisition of lane ropes will be conditional upon you accepting proposals. You see, what I'm trying to avoid is that you acquire lane ropes because it looks nice for a pool to have lane ropes, and then the lane ropes end up staying on the deck and deteriorating like we had seen.
Well, I was going to respond which we intend to accept once favorable.
Now that is an advancement in the 2 hours that we sit in here. Nice to hear. So you'll let us know what's going on with the procurement of the lane ropes. Fire extinguishers. None were visible. Have we acquired fire extinguishers? And I'm talking specifically with respect to the pump room, because somebody might be saying, if we buy a pool, why we need fire extinguishers?
I'll have to look into that matter of fire extinguishers. I'll have to look into that because the fact that at least the statement that none were visible is not something that is to my knowledge. So I'll have to look into that matter, and we'll have to do the necessary procurement in that regard.
Okay, so do you have fire extinguishers?
We should have fire extinguishers at all our pools. As far as I know, our pools should have, all our facilities rather, should have.
Okay.
a
When
required
last you
number
were
of
at
fire
Coquet?
extinguishers. I was at Coquet in January. However, to say I was specifically looking for fire extinguishers, that was not the
All right.
purpose of the visit.
So in the grand opening, would we have checked off on certain things? In the grand opening we had on the 9th of January.
I personally was not there for the opening. I could not make
All
it
right,
to the
but
opening.
prior to
But
the opening, I would expect there are checklists of
Yeah.
certain things. Because I'm gleaning from what you said, that all our facilities should have fire extinguishers. It is something that is considered as necessary, mandatory, so that in preparing for the opening, not necessarily on the day, did we check for fire extinguishers? Because we are saying none were visible. You take exception to that. So that's why I asked whether you have.
again, that is something I'll have to check to make.
Okay.
So I did not make the personal checks to see if
Okay.
there were fire extinguishers. I would liaise with the facilities manager, and well, we'll have that information and deal with it as such.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. There were protruding metal rods around the glass portals, you know, that underground where you view the simmers from underground. Was that dealt with?
Sorry.
Yes.
Madam
Mr.
Chair, can I-
Fullerton, yes.
sorry. That has been dealt with, Madam Chair, yes.
Okay, maybe I should have asked you about the fire extinguishers. Okay, and what is the status with this concession areas, that area that was really, looked like a public health hazard? What has happened with that?
That area is where the ceiling would have been compromised and the sinks and the like would have been also compromised. The area has been cleaned and power washed and stuff. The sinks and the other components are part of a street to be installed, procured and installed, Madam Chair.
Okay, so that phase 3 again is when?
It begins at the end of March.
Okay, so that by the end of May, that
It will be
concession area
totally-
should be dealt with?
And ready for use, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Now, there was an issue that we had observed with visible signs of moisture and so on, damp in the pump room. What is the status of treating with that?
We are trying to see what would be the source of it. We know that it's because the area is a bit cold, and because it's at a lower level than the surrounding area, it means that it will always have that dampish inside it. Perhaps we could introduce a fan that will bring some hot air inside it to kind of balance off the temperatures. We are actively seeking information as to what is the best possible approach to reduce the formation of mold and mildew inside there, Madam
So,
Chair.
as a
And as it
technical-
is right now, we're doing constant cleaning of the
Yeah,
area.
so as the technical officer, if I gave you to, through the ministry, to report to us by the end of March on what is proposed with respect to this, because it will be within your third phase now, the starting up of your third phase. Would that be unreasonable?
No, that would not be unreasonable.
Okay,
Madam
thank
Chair.
you very much. And the last thing, what is going on with the sump pump? I know we've identified that it's at the end of its life cycle. Have we begun anything with respect to the procurement for replacement?
The procurement process is in place to have a pump, to get a new pump, Madam Chair. It hasn't been a front burner item simply because the recent repairs will give us a little bit more life in it. But the procurement process has begun to get a new pump for replacement, Madam Chair.
Okay, and you have an idea of how long your procurement process will take to identify a supplier?
I would want to safely say by mid-year we should have that process completed, Madam Chair.
By mid-June?
Mid-year, end of June is mid-year.
Okay, all right. Member Dionorai.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just want to intervene here. Could we perhaps ask them to submit in writing a timeline for this procurement process? Because this is something very important, and if anything goes wrong with it, the whole facility has to close. So I think it is something that we need to pay very close attention to in terms of being very strict with the timelines that we are using to procure for this item, and we cannot delay on it.
Okay, so I think it's a valid point, and I'm sure the Secretariat, in writing to the Ministry for further responses, would also indicate that. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to ask is the storage. The actual storage facility is something that we noticed both at Mova and at Koki, in terms of the chemicals and the hazards not being properly identified, like, signage, poison, or this is salt and not something else. There was an absence of that. Have we improved on that?
We are currently working with our procurement unit with respect to signs for both Koke and for mobile swimming pools.
All right. Yeah. So that in terms of the signage, what kind of timeline for the signage? Because, I mean, there's a big risk.
Yeah, definitely. I think definitely by the end of February, we should be able to at least have a supplier engaged and get invoices, get the necessary invoice and put forward for accounts to request the releases for payment.
Okay. And in terms of, there was an issue with lighting, again, heat generating lighting in the areas where chemicals are stored. Has that been addressed?
Insofar as Koke Pool is concerned, yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. And the last thing I wanted to ask, we are entering the second month of the reopening of Koke. Okay, because you open the 9th of January, right? 9th of February is tomorrow. Okay. Have we started the procurement process for chemicals?
Yes, as alluded to by Deputy Permanent Secretary, we will start receiving a batch of chemicals tomorrow, based on the procurement process that would have been done, and also in December, and we would have got the releases for probably earlier this week. Yeah, earlier this week, and he had the check cut today, so. We have passed on that information to the supplier, and we'll start delivery tomorrow. So we have one batch of chemicals coming in, and in preparation for that time period that we know chemicals would last, we have already started the necessary procurement process for another batch of chemicals.
Okay, so the chemicals that we would have used in January, that we borrowed from some other
we would have borrowed chemicals from other pools where those pools are down, and we could afford to have those chemicals just to last the time period.
Can I ask what pools you borrowed them from?
Sangre Grande.
Sangre Grande?
Mainly, yeah. Sangre Grande would have been that pool that we would have utilized.
Okay. What's the lifespan of chemicals?
I think the safe lifespan is, I think, 3 to 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. After that, you tend to find that if you have it in storage for over about 6 months, it starts to expire, or it starts to lose its strength, rather.
Right.
So we try to, one, in terms of storage capacity, and also in terms of the same issue of lifespan of chemicals, we try to procure on a 3-month basis.
And Sangre Grande would have been down how long?
Sangagani would have been down. Well, Sangagani would not have been used throughout COVID, the period of lockdowns rather, and some issues would have developed, so we were not able to reopen Sangagani when it is we return to play, so to speak. So since then, we would have procured chemicals. I think it would have been in either July or August of 2022. All right, so it's from that batch we would have had chemicals remaining that could have been utilized for Koke swimming pool.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Member Bacchus?
Just before you leave that on you mentioned the heating. I was thinking about the suitability. So the suitability of facilities for the storing of chemicals. Heating is one thing, but ventilation is another. Is the facility set up that way? And we build storerooms as vaults. We don't really build them as something that lock it tight, everything inside, nobody could get in. Is it suitable for where you are?
You?
Yes. Okay. Yes, member, they are. They were designed particularly for that purpose.
Thank you.
And as far as I wanted to go on to move on in case anybody wish to ask anybody side visit at Koke. Yes, Member Dinabu.
Apologies for delaying the move. With regards to the chemical storage, I don't know if it was mentioned, and I apologize if I didn't hear. Do you all have guidelines for the storage? I know we spoke about signage, but in terms of the ground, some of these things can be quite corrosive. Is there any sort of protection for the floor inside there, so that we don't have damage to the substrate in there?
Mr. Fulton?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. The same environment that has been purpose-built for storage of the items has protection on the floors and the walls which would prevent corrosion entering into the concrete substrate for damage to take place. Those measures were put in place during construction.
All right, so we could just look a bit at MOVA. All right, I must say, when we went to MOVA aesthetically, it was a totally different board game. It was really pleasing to see. But again, we noticed a number of things when we went in. There are a number of toilet facilities that are all out of order. And again, I wanted to ask about the grade of, appliances and equipment and so on, furnishings that we use.
I would like to invite Mr. Fulton.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. To the best of my knowledge, once again, the fixtures and fittings inside the MOVA, all the pools, the special purpose pools, are all supposed to be industrial grade. I wasn't there when they were being constructed and implemented, so I can't say for sure that they are, but they were supposed to have been based on the documents I received. And as a result, I would hate to think that it is because of misuse that they may have deteriorated. I doubt that very much. So we are looking in to see what could be the cause of the issues, and if in fact the fixtures that are put in there were not industrial grade, then the replacements would definitely be industrial grade fittings.
So is it that those facilities still not functional?
MOVA is fully functional, fully operational, Madam Chair.
No, I'm not talking about the pool, I'm talking about the toilets.
The one or two stalls that were inoperable are still that way, as we are trying to get the contractor to come back and do what he was supposed to be done in the first place. It's really the cut. That is still being discussed at this point, before we enter into further costs associated with pools. They are brand new pools, Therefore, the contractor must be held accountable for stuff. And that is the discussions that are taking place right now with those fixtures and fittings, Madam Chair.
Okay, so kind of idea of time frame for these discussions to fructify into some action, one way or the other.
I would say that given the carnival period and the attention that's being paid to everything else right now, I would want to say that probably in the middle of April thereabouts, we should have some action taking place with respect to replacements, Madam Chair.
Okay. And as far as, I do see we got quick action on the changing of the locks.
Oh, yes.
I think they would change the next day.
The very next day, Madam
But
Chair.
it goes back to the kind of quality of fittings and fixtures being used. And in terms of the replacement and how quickly it was executed, you know, I expect it would be of a proper grade for outdoor use.
Yes, Madam Chair, they were expressly stated on the packaging, exterior use.
All right, but you know, as I say, we'll be back. We'll be back, but I must commend you for the quick action in having those things seen.
Thank you,
seen
Madam Chair.
about. Okay, now, particularly with respect to MOVA, when we got there, we asked in terms of there being an emergency response plan in the event that something happened there, you know, ambulance or something like that, having to get in there. Have we dealt with any emergency response plan for all of our pools, one, but particularly MOVA because of the tight access and so on?
That is a matter that we are discussing with the members of the TTDF, the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force. We are even in discussions with respect to the creation of an MOU at this point between the Ministry and the Defence Force to sort of formalize the relationship between two organizations and their operations at the pool. So that is something that we are taking into consideration very seriously as well in terms of the development of that emergency response plan. The suggestion that would have been made as relates to having an ambulance on site is a bit cost prohibitive, to be honest. So, but we do have that relationship with the health centers nearby, and of course with the Port of Spain General Hospital in case there are any emergencies that they can be attended to as quickly as possible.
Okay, so do I take that, Mr. McTeer, even though we focused on MOVA, that in terms of all your pools, you have an emergency response plan?
At all our pools where we have an emergency response plan or an incident plan,
yes,
and that is followed through with in case there are any emergencies. Again, the nearby health centers, the community health centers that are nearby, are always engaged in case there is any emergency. And of course, reports are submitted within 24 to 48 hours to head office in case of any incidents that would have taken place at the particular facility.
And who's the point person with the emergency response plan?
We do have, we do have a point person within the Division of Physical Education and Sport, as well as the Project Management Unit, as would have been alluded to earlier. Those are the 2 point persons to which there's direct communication by the warden of the pool, and of course that information will come to myself as the Director of the Division of Physical Education and Sport, as well as the Technical Director of the Project Management Unit.
All right, so let me ask something. The warden has a job spec?
Yes.
So that is included in his or her job spec?
Well, as at least in the position description is definitely included.
Okay, about the response?
About response time in terms of any incidents that take place at the pools.
Okay, and have we at each of our pools, because they are all uniquely placed, do we have a sort of a risk management plan and a risk policy with respect to each of them?
what the policy that we would utilize would be the OS policy of the ministry, and everything that we do, we try to do it in compliance with the OS policy of the ministry.
Yeah, but I asked that in terms of, I understand the OSH policy, but risk, let's say for instance, cookie has a unique risk. Okay? You agree that?
Yes.
And what that unique risk, if we're talking about the same thing? I would have thought the unique risk is that it's located beneath road level. Right? So how do we assess that risk, and what do we do to mitigate that risk at Koki?
I can't say that there's a policy in place with respect to that at this time.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to find. That we have identified for each of the facilities the risk, the vulnerabilities, and the strategies to deal with that. So if we could get that done in writing for each of the facilities.
And
Yes?
I think we should also include if drills are done in terms of fire, just emergency drills. So I think that should as well be included in the risk assessment.
Now, with the opening of the new, of the all new pools, the reopening of those in March, how do we plan to make it known to the public that these pools are coming on stream, by what date, and so on? How are we going about that?
Well, similarly to Kokie, we would put forward an ad in the newspaper and as well on social media. And as would have been indicated, when it is you have visited Kokie, it doesn't take long for that information to disseminate and for people to be registering to utilize the pool. So it's usually very organic, but we have taken into consideration the suggestion that would have been made, and we are utilizing traditional as well as social media options as it relates to promoting the opening of the pools.
Okay, so you haven't begun yet to engage any schools and so on in the area, catchment areas of those pools that are coming back on stream?
Not as yet.
Not as yet.
No.
And plans to do that will be when?
We'll wait a little closer because we want to ensure that the works that have to be taken care of are actually on as per the completion date, right? Okay. In time with the completion date. So we won't want to make an announcement and then we have to delay again in terms of the actual opening. So as would have been done with Kokie probably about 2 weeks before, we will start to, when it is absolutely certain that it's going to open on a particular date, yes, we will definitely start to engage.
So I note from that is more than act of God or insurrection may stop those opening dates of end of March 2023. Okay, so I would ask any other member of the committee if there are any other questions they wish to ask. No? Okay, so I want to, at this stage, thank the Deputy PS and the Technical Director from the Ministry of Sports, and Mr. Mokhtar. I can't remember your position, but I'll call you by your name. Okay, I want to thank you all for, your contributions. I certainly want to thank you all on behalf of the people and the community around Kokie for getting that pool up and running. And while not perfect, what things are not done have not inhibited the operation of the pool. And I look forward to the other 3 or 4 that have been identified for the end of March, similarly coming back on stream. Certainly as far as Kuva, on behalf of the committee, we really hope that some sort of determination with respect to Kuva can take place at the earliest possible time, because it appears from the figures Couva really is a community that has a hungry need. Okay, their revenue from the Learn to Swim was 5-seeded all the other pools over a 4-year period. And of that 4-year period, they earned 0 in 1 year, and they still exceeded everybody. Okay? So let's hope that we can make a determination with respect to that. As far as the Ministry of Finance, I think we have some questions for them, but we'd send it in writing because I think, regrettably, we got investments here. It wasn't really investments that we needed. But again, we do thank you, Mr. Maraj, and your fellow officer for coming and making yourself available to assist the committee in whichever way. And as far as Ms. Barbara and Mr. Ince from the Sport TT, again, we thank you all for coming. Just before I adjourn the meeting, can I ask, is there anything that any of the representatives from the 3 entities wish to suggest that the committee can do to assist them in discharging their functions with the management, maintenance, administration of the community pools? Yes, sir. Deputy PS.
Chairman, I think you have given us quite a lot to, in terms of your recommendations and your inquiry, for us to attend to certain matters and address the concerns of the committee. So I thank you all for bringing up those issues, some which we may not have taken into consideration in the way we should have. So I thank you for your recommendations, which we will take on board. Thank you.
Again, thank you all very much. I wish you all a safe journey home. I want to thank the members of the viewing audience and the media who have stayed with us, those who have sent questions to assist us in this inquiry. This meeting is now suspended. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon and thank you.